Hello and welcome to Behind the Bearcat. This is the podcast where the Northwest Missouri State University Career Services Office chats with Northwest faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends to hear about their career journeys, how they got to where they are, and how they became Bearcats. I'm Career Services Assistant Director Travis Klein.
And I'm Hannah Christian, Director of Career Services here at Northwest. And today's guest on our show.
I'm Hadley Douglas, and I am the Fraternity and Sorority Life Coordinator.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, we're so glad to have you here. So, Fraternity and Life Coordinator, for those that don't know, what does that mean?
Yeah, so usually we have like an assistant director that's above us. At the moment, that position was open. So right now we're just bringing another coordinator on. But basically what we kind of do is put on the events, take care of like the budgets and stuff like that because, they do have things that they have to, prepare for, like recruitment and buy things for. As a coordinator, there's a little bit more newer things that I've been doing. Corey kindly stepped in and helped us for this recruitment and everything. But basically, he let me take on more of like an AD style. But normally, you're just doing behind the scenes type things and helping the assistant director when need be. But I'm doing more of like the admin work, which is really cool. It's a great experience for me to even learn that kind of things when the situation came about, so it was kind of nice. But yeah, it's just really nice. I get to help with recruitment, I get to help with Greek Week and all of those things. And then in between, we have like new officers that will come in every now and then, so we have to do those interviews and everything. But normally the councils can take care of them themselves, but usually they have to come to the coordinator to get those things approved. To the chapters have to do the same thing with the fraternities and sororities. So yeah, I've just been kind of dibble dabbling in a little bit, but also like admin work. But a coordinator does just more of like the tedious things with an assistant director.
So, can you maybe go back and just tell us about how did you find this position? Maybe just a little bit of your journey to get to where you are today.
Yeah. So I was a Bearcat way back when. I'm not saying it like it was a long time ago. But I graduated in 2023, so I got the full COVID experience, all of that. So I started in 2019, go Franken dorm because that's where I was. Loved it. But I came on for, if you guys know what FFA is, I came here for those fall contests and stuff. And, I'm from a small town not too far from here, so a lot of the schools would come here for tours and everything. So I kind of already had an idea about like, oh, Northwest, I kind of like it. And I did not want to go to the school that was closer to me. I did not want to go to that college because all the students would go there too from my high school and everything. So I decided to go on a campus tour. It was raining. I remember it and everything. And I just liked it and I loved it once I came here. So, that like and love just kind of came together. So that's just kind of how I started of the whole journey of coming to college here, getting a full experience. And then obviously, what was that? Sorry.
What did you study? What did you want?
Um, yeah, so at first I started with I wanted to be a vet. I took my first class. It was biopsych, and it was the hardest one you could possibly think of. And I said nope. After I took the exams and stuff like that, I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this any longer. So then I switched to human services because I really liked helping people, and I figured that was the best option for me at the moment. And I took a class with Dr. Jacobson, and absolutely phenomenal. Human services just was my get-go off the bat, and ever since then, helping people was my main thing. And being in a sorority here on campus, I basically just plugged two and two together. I was like, a coordinator does that. They help the students. And also, I can give back to the areas that I once was a student.
So I think Greek sorority and fraternity life. Sorry, I'll try not to use the G word. I know
Did that out.
fine.
it's a habit. I went to college in the early 2000s, and that's all we said. So I got to break that habit. But fraternity and sorority life, I think that's one of those things, folks that aren't kind of in a college environment all the time. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. I have a daughter who is a freshman at Northwest right now, and I know she had a lot of misconceptions about it. She's got some friends in it. So can you kind of,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, being part of a sorority while you were here, what kind of motivated you to want to do that? Was it to try and meet other people? Was, what made you want to join that type of organization?
Right. Well, honestly, I came to SOAR and I did not even talk to the FSL booth or anything like that. And, I went through a couple days of school, which was Advantage and everything. And I will be honest, I signed up the very last minute possible. Use like that timeline of like, oh, we still have the application open. I was like, you know what? Let's just try it. Let's just see what it's about. I mean, I don't know anything about it. I don't even know what Greek life was. I did not
Mhm.
know. And so I just went through it just kind of like an experience type thing at the beginning of it. And then going through all of the like we call them parties, which is like each event that they have for meeting all the sororities and stuff. And I just liked the people that I was meeting. I not necessarily the title of Greek life or what the chapter was, but I was just like these people are really kind and they're really nice. And I'm not saying I didn't know anybody here at college, which I did. I'm a very outspoken person. I like talking. I'm very friendly. Sometimes people need to tell me when to stop talking, but I was just like, okay, we're gonna do this and I'm gonna meet new people. But through that entire experience, like the people would come back up to me in the parties and be like, oh my gosh, I remember you. And I was just like, that was really kind and nice to know. And I know it's very misunderstood and everything, but the people in there, they want to be your friends and they're not trying to say that to get you to join. They're saying that because, they're trying to make your college experience the best way possible. And that's with having friends to get you through the good and the hard times because college is not always easy. There's classes that stress you out, money sometimes too financially, and it's just a great outlook to go back and like we have events they put on and everything like formals or just hanging out in the chapter room of Roberta. There's different things that people need to calm down and just be in their own little bubble, but also with the people that they want to be around. So going through that atmosphere was just really nice. And then obviously on bid day I ran home and I just felt really excited and happy, and I was like, I have these people around me to support me. And throughout my entire time, the 4 years of college, I felt great, and I wasn't on the outskirts. And some people do feel like that when they're not in a sorority, but no, whether you're joining or not, you have friends. Like you said, your daughter is on the outside and she sees friends that are in a sorority, but she can still go to the things that the
Mhm.
sororities do. And so that's just what makes it very welcoming, whether you're in it or not. So sorry, that was a really long spiel.
No, that's a good answer. And I definitely, in career services, we have employers who will come and like the requests we get for the students they want to talk to, athletes are typically number one, and then the Greek, fraternity sorority
Yeah, yeah,
participants are too, because they know those people know people, they're social, they kind of,
yeah,
definitely I think the networking aspect of it, if nothing else, like you are plugged into a network of people, that's something you have in common. If the person
yeah,
interviewing you was also part of the same chapter you were, like that's a
right,
common point. Like there's a lot of advantages to it for sure. And definitely
yeah,
it's not what I think a lot of people have the perception of from movies and TV. You think of,
right,
toga parties and think that's not what
yeah,
it is. It's a lot of entrepreneurship and giving back and a lot of, kind of service work as well. And the academic requirements too. I know some of our student employees who have been involved in sororities and fraternities have had some of the highest GPAs because
yeah,
they have to keep them up to stay active in the chapter.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it was actually kind of nice. I don't know if you guys remember Annie Punt when she was here as a student, but also she had my role before she found another job closer to home. Like I was able to connect with her because, I took over her spot when she was homecoming queen, and then I took over her spot for this position right now. So it was like it was collaborating and also talking with networking and everything. Like I texted her, I said, "Hey, this position's open." Like just talking. It was just very easy because I knew her from previous in college. So,
So, if you were talking to a new incoming student, I mean, we're at the beginning of the spring semester, right?
yeah.
So, kind of in the middle of everything. If you were talking to a new incoming student, what would be some of the advice you would give them about maybe some of the benefits of joining a fraternity or sorority?
Well, speaking of, since I kind of do both sides, Corey obviously helps me in those areas. But just kind of reflecting on like how I was going through SOAR and talking to them as a professional now instead of a student, I was just asking like, what would you want to get out of fraternity and sorority life? What's your main goal? Like, I know you're coming through college to, get a degree and everything, but like, what's an impact that you want to get through this? And normally I would ask them what they want to receive so that I can help them in the advice that they want to be given. And normally it's just like making friends. And so that's just very easy off the get go. But basically, the advice I would give them is just have an open mind when going through and talking to the chapters. You know, they all have different perspectives and different goals and values in their chapters. So once you find that connection and you meet those same goals and values like they have, then you're going to find that connection. And that's the best advice I can give is just having an open mind because not everyone thinks the same, everyone thinks differently, and you have to go with the flow of certain things. Another advice I would give them is, you know, there's going to be times where like I said previously, college is going to be hard and tough. So the advice I would give them is just again going with the flow, but also reflecting and asking for guidance and help through those chapters because they're going to give you the resources that you need. Whether that's saying, "Hey, go to the library and we can do study hours," or go into financial aid because they have different um, uh, statements that they can do to pay things off and everything like that. But also, if it's through school, you know, there's scholarships that a lot of the chapters give out and also the school gives out. So if they're concerned about that, then okay, let's talk about it. Let's get this figured out and everything. But I would also, my main thing is just basically find a chapter that feels welcoming to you because then it makes your experience a lot more easy to reflect on when you come back to college. Because I know as a new member ed for my own chapter when I was in college, I was a senior helping all the new freshmen come into the new chapter. And I basically said, and it's an experience of a lifetime. And I kept my word through the entire time telling them about the chapter. I was like, you want to make sure you're liking this experience, but also at the end of your college experience, you want to make sure that you loved it. So.
That's a really good segue into, can you talk a little bit more about recruitment and how did you find your spot or how did you find your way and how do most students kind of make a connection with a specific group of other students?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I didn't think I was going to go through recruitment until the very last minute. And so obviously going through the parties, I felt where I fell, if that it's a feeling type thing. So I can't explain it, but it's a feeling type thing. When you walk into a room and there's people all around you and you're talking to them and getting to know them, there's some people that you know you just don't really vibe with, and that's totally okay. But it's not like I can't talk to you once the recruitment process is over and everything. But I walked into Alpha Delta Pi, which is a chapter that was my home and everything, and I just felt this type of vibe that was just very it felt normal almost. So I was like, okay, I like these people and I like what they talk about and everything. One of their philanthropies was Ronald McDonald House, and as a type 1 diabetic, I knew that and I knew what it was like staying in a hospital for a whole week and everything like that. Not that I had to ever reflect on them, but they had people that came over and gave my parents care packages and stuff just because it's a whole process. But anyways, that's kind of like where I got emotionally impacted by it because I was like, that's something I want to help and do and everything, and that kind of goes towards my major as well. Like helping is a main thing for me, and I want to give back in the places that I can. So once recruitment was over, I just kept leaning and like it kept grabbing me more and more times every time I got asked back to come to ADPi. And towards the end, it was bid day and everything, and I can't tell you how big my smile was. It was just so big when I know they take pictures and everything, but like the feeling of running to that place where your sign is up and everything, it just makes it feel 10 times better because those people are wanting you. Doesn't matter what chapter you're going to, whatever chapter it is, they're wanting you and they're wanting you for a reason. So I think that just goes along with how to feel in a process like this because recruitment is tense, it's scary, it's a lot of emotions that the girls are feeling, but it's okay. It's okay to feel those things. They're gonna relate, they're gonna reflect because they've been in your position before too. So
I'm interested. You mentioned you graduated in 2023, so fairly recently, and that transition from going from a Northwest student right into a staff member, kind of in a leader, you were kind of in leadership in your own chapter, it sounds like, but now you're a coordinator who's in charge of all of the chapters. So what was that
right.
transition from student to employee like? Was it an easy transition? Was it something that, was a little bit of struggle? Like, talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's a struggle. Obviously, there was things that I had to, work on, like boundaries and everything, which wasn't a problem. It was just like some of these students are still my friends, but if there's concerns or situations that come about, I kind of have to let someone else take care of those because if I'm their friend or it was my chapter getting in trouble, I can't take care of those things because I don't want to be biased and everything. So, I definitely, made sure the chapters know that I was going to be an unbiased professional, but I'm still going to be here for you. I always made sure to let the students know, like I went all around to the chapters and told them that I have an open door policy. So come in, I have snacks 24/7. I have a fridge that they can come get food in or keep food in. But I didn't want them to feel like they couldn't talk to me any longer because that's not the case. You know, I'm a professional, yes, but we still had that friend type area when we were in college. So I'm not just going to cut that off, not at all. But coming in, you know, it kind of helped me because I knew what the things were about, like recruitment and doing interviews and stuff like that. So I kind of had that experience from a member perspective, but also as a professional. So it was a little bit easier. But, you know, when you have someone that also takes care of the sororities, which was my area as a college student, I didn't have to worry about that. I didn't have to reflect on anything that I was going to feel during that area with students thinking that I was going to do something wrong or something like that. So it made it easier. So I was working with the fraternities, so it makes it a lot easier so that we can collaborate and everything because, you know, that's majority of what those students are doing is collaborating and connecting with all of the areas here on campus, whether it's organizations or staff members or just the resources that we have. So it was nice being able to take my own experiences and perspectives to bring it into this role and help those students as well because I know what it's like to be a college student here at Northwest. I totally get it. So whatever you need help with, I'm gonna help. If there's something that I can't do, then I'm gonna go find that help to get it for you. So
In to kind of flip Travis's question a little bit, what was the most surprising thing for you about the difference between being a college student and maybe stepping into a professional role on a college campus?
right. Honestly, I feel like as a coordinator, I'm like a Gamma Chi, and a Gamma Chi is people that are on the back scenes of recruitment, just like helping it flow in a progressive way. And so I kind of felt like that as a professional. I'm just on the back skirts of everything happening. So it was a little bit different as a student. However, I feel like it just made the transition a lot easier since I was a Gamma Chi when I was a student and everything. So I don't think it was anything that I couldn't handle or something that I couldn't take on. Obviously, there was a lot of learning that I had to take on, like, you know, with not having an assistant director, like learning the admin work was a little bit different because I never had to do that as a student, and I don't have a degree in math or finances or anything like that. So, you know, I just had to figure it out as I went. But I will say, like, I had a strong suit of organizing things. So, being able to organize recruitment, organize SOAR and Advantage with FSL was just a lot easier. And I kind of just took all the experiences that I could from a student to a coordinator position because I feel like that's the best that you could do. I don't know what that word was. Sorry. But yeah, it's just it wasn't difficult. Obviously there's going to be strong suits and weaknesses, but I'll figure those out as I keep going. So,
I think that's the secret to like, if I could tell all college students like the secret of being professional, it's like most
Just
of us
figuring things out.
most of us don't have degrees in what we're doing. We're just figuring it
right.
out. It may seem like we're all
Right.
together. I like to use the analogy we're like ducks. It's like, you know, looks super smooth above the water, but under the water, those little feet are just paddling away the whole time you're at work and you're just trying to make it to the next day.
Yeah,
So that's good. You
not
figured
every
it out
day's the
early.
same.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody gives you a degree in like where do I go if I need to fill out a PR? Like, what is a PR? I don't know.
Nope.
Well, and I would imagine, especially in your role, you know, you mentioned, you know, having similar roles as a student, but it really seems like for fraternity and sorority life, it's almost its own language. Like education kind of has its own language. We have, you know,
Right.
our, you know, shorthands for things, but with fraternity and sorority life, like there's a whole nother level of, and it
Yeah.
literally is in a different language a lot of times. So I think no
Yeah.
having that knowledge, like I can't imagine like me, someone who was never involved in that, trying to step into a role like yours, where it's like
Yeah.
you literally have to learn the whole vocabulary to be able to even speak the language to people. So having that experience, I'm sure was very helpful starting you
Oh
out. You're
yeah.
already
And the students, you know, they help with like interviews and everything. So they were in on my
Mhm.
interview and the person that we're hiring here soon, well, he's already hired. But basically, you know, they wanted to reflect and hear like what do you will you value our traditions and our values as a chapter? And I said, well, yeah, because I know what that's like. So they wouldn't want someone that's not saying they couldn't handle it, but it's just it makes it easier because they know what we're talking about and the frustrations and the concerns that they want to help bring up the chapters on campus. So yeah.
Did you work on campus as a student at Northwest?
I did. I was a tour guide, so a student ambassador. I did. So tours all day long, rain, snow, sunshine, all of it. So
And I think that helps too, because then you have that baseline knowledge of kind of this is how all the different parts of the university work. And again, when you go to work there, it helps if you know the lay of the land a little bit as well. So,
yeah, absolutely.
are you hiring students? You mentioned, students being involved in your interviews. Are you, supervising students now as a coordinator or working with students in that role?
Right, yeah. So yeah, my job's working with students almost every
Yeah.
single day, no matter what. Um, but we have a intern that usually helps us with some of the things like social media, newsletters, and stuff like that, because that's a lot of tedious things, and it would take almost my entire shift, 8 to 4. But basically, they come in and they have at least, a normal shift as a student employee at Northwest can have. And we help them out in the areas. Usually, we ask someone that has a background in that. But if they don't, it's a learning experience for them, anyways. But they'll do social media for us, like posting on the Northwest Instagram. We have a TikTok as well, if you didn't know. And just all those little things, like tedious things that a student could be doing when they're really good at social media things and everything. So we let them take care of that, but obviously we advise that as well. So, and then, me and Corey are also in charge of like the councils for fraternity and sorority life. So you have the fraternities that I'm in charge of, and Corey is in charge of the sororities. But the council's our main area, but we still have to take charge of the chapters as well. So.
What goals do you have for yourself, maybe, moving forward? Where do you see yourself maybe moving up or trying new things in this realm?
Yeah, absolutely. My main goal is to get a strategic planning for our students. They were going through the ringer before, and I don't want them to feel like that any longer. College is stressful enough. I don't want you to be putting in more work than you have to. Obviously, you have your standards that you need for your chapters and the international and national headquarters. But basically just seeing their progress throughout college. Like, is this experience helping you? Like, how's it done so? And just, that's tedious things. Like, where's your GPA standing? We're supposed to be the highest one here on campus. How's your community service going? And stuff like that. So little tedious things in between there. That's my main goal to get out of the students at the moment, because I know once we first broke that strategic planning, they felt like they could breathe again, because they were going through a lot of work and everything. And I was like, that's not the case. You shouldn't be doing that. So let's take a step back and let's reflect on it. We actually have a retreat that's tomorrow, and I want to hear their concerns and their pros and cons and everything like that. I want them to reflect on what Corey and I can do better, because I'm not dogging on anybody, but their previous experience probably wasn't the best, and there's probably things that they want to improve on and everything. And I don't want them to go through that again with me and the new hire that we have that will be coming here in May. I want them to feel like they can come in no matter what, and they don't feel like they're getting yelled at or there's things they're doing wrong or anything. So I just want to have a good balance. I'm a friendly person no matter what, but I want to make sure you can feel that through the work that we're doing here in our positions. And I think another goal, just making sure our new hire feels welcome when he comes in. There's a lot that he's going to be taking on, working with the first sororities and everything, but I want him to make sure that he can work with me very well, but also the students. So that's my next goal coming up in May. So yeah.
And then are you in a graduate program or anything like that? I mean, you mentioned being done in undergrad. We're classmates, I believe, in the program that
Yes.
we're in right now, right?
Yes, I am. I'm taking my master's in strategic communication. That's just a working skill for myself as well. I think that's a great thing to have underneath my belt with communication with students or communication with staff members too. I want to be able to do it well and not as I would say as a student would talk, if that makes any sense. So I want to make sure that I'm using the right tools that are being used today in reality, because there's so many different things that we could be doing with marketing or texting or emailing and all these different things, and I want to make sure I can put my best foot forward when doing that communication. Like I said, I'm a very outspoken person, so when communicating to students, I don't want it to go the wrong way. I want them to make sure they can hear me loud and clear, because they're always trying to find their loopholes. But yeah, I'm really excited. Master's programs can be a little bit tough here and there, a lot of classes, but um I take the day at the end of the day to work on homework or the weekends to do what I need to do. But it's pretty easy in my job. I'm not saying I'm not off the hook or anything. I still have a lot to do, but it just makes it easier that it kind of feels like a student all over again. I was working a job, doing an organization, and then also being a student as well. So
And it seems like I'm saying from also Travis's point of view, it seems like strategic communication is so relevant to every position that you might work at that
yeah.
it's easy to incorporate the things that you learn in class with what you're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of reflects on, I know human services and strategic communication don't really go hand in hand, but on my side, it does for me because, I'm helping people, but communication's a big key in that, to talk and communicate with them. So it doesn't matter what, like you said, what work I'm doing, I'm going to be communicating and helping them in some way. So
Yeah, I've been really, like, say, in my role as AD at Career Services, it was like, it made the most sense on paper, but then the actual classes too, like every single class I've taken, and I've only got a couple left at this point, they've
right,
related somehow to the job. So whether it was cases and campaigns, thinking about, how can we
right,
put together, what we would want to do for messaging, and
yeah,
the org com classes that Dr. Walker teaches, I absolutely can directly relate to the job. So it's been really nice to not only
yeah,
have classes that are interesting, which makes a big difference when you're,
right.
working 40 hours a week, but then also to be able to directly relate it to what you're doing too. So yeah, I think it's a really good program for any working professional. And I know we're a little biased because we're Northwest people, but it is. And it's nice that it's online too, because it's nice to just be
Yeah,
able to interface with it anytime and not have to be in specific class times, because our
yeah.
worlds can be a little crazy from one day to the next. So,
Yeah, I will say it's helped with a lot of challenges that have come about, but I think it's a very good resource. And I know when we do our discussion posts, I'm able to reflect on work right then and there, and
mhm.
everyone understands it because they're going through it every single day. So it makes it nice, because obviously a lot of people are workers that are already here. So
If you had the opportunity to give maybe a graduating senior some advice about next steps, right? Like where do they look for jobs that might be, beneficial to them, or how do they approach the job search process? Like what tips or advice would you give a student?
yeah, always working ahead. You don't want to be doing it the last minute of, I mean, if you have a summer job, that's cool, but like you don't want to be doing it during your summer job. You want to do it like when you're already a student and you want to work on that as well. I know you take classes to do your resume and everything like that, but there's more than just a resume. There's more of like the interviewing and what you should be wearing and who you should be talking to, what resources should you be giving. So if you have a particular job, maybe reach out to those people that maybe in the job already or a friend that works there and stuff because, connections is really important. You want to make sure that you can have at least some way of getting involved and everything like that. You might not get the job right then and there. It might take a couple months, even to a year. It's not going to be right off the bat that you have a job ready to go, but if you work and plan ahead, you're going to be able to find that. You're going to be able to find a job that's suitable for you. Maybe you have to work up to it, but that's kind of what work is like. As a bachelor's degree, you gotta work up. It's not just you get it right off the get-go and everything like that. So don't think, if you are doing it last minute, don't think it's not possible because you have all summer to work on it. I would say if you have a bare minimal job, then keep that. Maybe build up some money and find something and keep going. Maybe take some interviews, take some notes and everything like that. It's really important, but also make sure you're building on top of your resume as well because there are certain things that they're going to be looking for that someone else doesn't have, and you want to make sure that's on your resume because they're going to pull that really quickly and make sure that you get an interview right then and there. But I'm not saying you have to work ahead or behind, but it's important to be on top of your game when you're trying to find a job that you're very particular about. But it's a whirlwind when you're out in the real world. I know that's a very cheesy thing to say, but it is. It's hard to find something that's very particular to your role, but also to your major because that's something that people are always looking for on a day-to-day end. I'm not saying this was my end goal job. I had a job before this and I was substitute teaching, and that was just because I was trying to get through the process. Some of the jobs that I got interviews for, they just either the work wasn't correct for my major, or it wasn't the pay, or it was in a dangerous area for myself. And I want to make sure that I was in a stable area, and Maryville was my stable area that I could work at. So
if somebody maybe is a student thinking about Greek life or sorry, fraternity, sorry, I gotta break the habit,
You're
sorority,
fine.
fraternity life, if they have questions about like how to get involved or what do they need to do? What's like the first step to kind of start the process of talking to people or getting involved or going to those parties and things like that? How do they start that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do something called open recruitment or COB, which is open bidding. But basically talking to those chapters when those times comes around. Obviously if they're not doing it at that certain point of time that you're interested in, it's totally okay. You can still come up and talk to someone. It's not like you're off boundaries or anything like that. They're gonna talk to you, regardless. But coming to those people that you're interested in is a very good outlook of if you're wanting to get connected or even involved, whether that's you want to go through the COR or COB, or if you want to wait until the next fall to go through the whole process through the recruitment parties and everything like that. It's totally on the perspectives, scale if they wanted to do that or not, because it just kind of pins student to student. The advice I would just give is just don't think you're cut off at any point. You're able to talk to them, you're able to still be friends with them and everything like that. And maybe you just want to be connected as a friend and not actually join the chapter. Totally okay. Make those friends. They'll still invite you to things. Some things they're not always allowed to just because traditions and values or certain things like, chapter times on Mondays. They usually can't invite a friend to it, but there might be an evening where they're doing a formal. Go ahead, go hang out with them if you get invited and everything like that. So don't think you're cut off. You'll still be able to be friends with them, but if they're wanting to join, just make sure to talk to those students that you're friends with, and they'll get you the right resources and tell you when the COR is happening or when they're able to allow you to come into the chapter. So,
Excellent. Well, thank you
yeah,
so much for joining us. It was great.
yeah.
Lee.
All right. Well, that will do it for another episode of Behind the Bearcat, and we'll talk to you next time. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, be sure to give us a thumbs up below. That helps out. Also, if you've not done so yet, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Also, we'd love to connect with you on social media. You can find Behind the Bearcat on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Plus, the audio podcast comes out on Fridays on all the major podcast platforms. Thanks again for watching Behind the Bearcat, and as always, we'll talk to you next time.